Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. It's half-time at Pittodrie. Aberdeen 0, Celtic 0. And just before coming on live there, Chris, I was saying that, yeah, decent enough first-half performance. Cliched as it sounds, the only thing missing at the moment is that breakthrough goal.
Yeah, I thought we've seen it a lot this season. Some really good build-up play. I actually thought the interplay between the front three was really good, and particularly I think O'Reilly and Bernardo falling in behind. A wee bit unfortunate with the disallowed goal. I think it was the right decision. It was two guys offside. Two of our boys offside when the ball was eventually fired in from Abada, I think it was. But what I liked about that was the fact that we did have players following in, which was great. So going forward, we'll look okay. If anything, I would like us to be a wee bit more direct. We seem to be overcomplicating it a wee bit too much. Too many wee touches, wee layoffs. I'm a bit like, someone just, put their foot through it and hit a shot. I think Palma's doing a bit better. Seeing him actually trying to take a few players on. He's getting heavily involved. Similarly, Kyogo's coming back. He's trying to build the play and allow the overlap. Is doing pretty well. So yeah, I think it's definitely some positives. But yeah, just missing that breakthrough, missing that penetration, and missing that goal.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, what often happens here is we watch a game of football and you've got an idea in your mind how you felt about the first half. Then you start reading through the comments and you start thinking, we've been watching a different game. Right, I'll put my points over, agree, disagree, that's what it's all about. And we'll bring up your comments as well. Mount Kadath, his eyes are bleeding after that first half performance. Lord Flashheart, by the way, absolutely, there is a frustration when you create so many chances and we don't make the breakthrough. Obviously, there was that goal chopped off, and I think you're right. It was the right decision. Absolutely, blah blah blah. Aberdeen are absolutely rank rotten. He says they've certainly not created anything. They've not created anything today. The Kurgan goes on to say haven't really been troubled at the back. Aberdeen are defending well. Just need that clinical edge or the bit of magic. The way that I was seeing, I'm going to start off with Bernabei at left back, Ian Conroy. There was a suggestion at the beginning of the game that he might have it in him to have that resurgence, that resurrection. Was it the Renaissance man? And what I would say is, although he's not been challenged defensively, I think his link-up play has been very good down the left-hand side. Seems to have a bit of an understanding with Palma down the left as well. Is that how you read the first half performance from Bernabei, Ian Conroy?
Indifferent for me. He pulled out of a couple of challenges. I see Aberdeen are really kind of, they've disturbed their rhythm. They're really, really strong in the tackle. The pitch looks a bit bobbly as well, so we can't really get into a groove. He's been okay for me, average. But yeah, just when I've seen him pulling out a couple of 50-50s, not even 50-50s, maybe 60-40s in his favour. He's still pulled out. So I don't like to see that, It almost feels to me like we're like an under-21 team at times as well. I think like with the likes of Palma, as good as he is, he just needs a couple more years under his belt. It's like his decision-making, he had a couple of efforts that he should have hit the target, I know he hit the bar and whatever. But yeah, for me, Bernardo, nah, not for me, to be honest. I don't think he's having the best game.
Well, plenty will agree with you. Eddie Quigley comes on. Don't kid yourself for Bernabei. He's not good enough. Obviously, I made my feelings known prior to this game. I don't think he's had a bad first half, but I say that offensively. Kev, there's nothing worse than seeing a player not going in full-blooded in a challenge. It used to frustrate the life out of me with Reggie Blinker. Never ever fancied a challenge. Always shook his dreadlocks and then jumped out the way. Bernabei, he's offensively, and let's be honest, we have been on the front foot for most of that 45. I thought he's linked up pretty well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think his strengths are definitely going forward. And that's why when we were talking before the game about that formation change that we would kind of all like to see of going three at the back with the wing backs, I think Bernabei is suited to that. He's more of a wing back. Because going forward, he's been pretty good. He's linked up well with Palma. He's got himself in space. He's put in a couple of decent, kind of quick, low crosses to the near post that we've not been able to capitalise on, but he's been there to put the balls in. And I think he's looked pretty decent going forward and offensively. But I need to agree with Ian on the defensive side of things. He's still really, really weak for me. it's like we've spoken about the Jekyll and Hyde performances that the team has put in. Bernabe's the Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to going forward. He's pretty decent. Defensively, he's pretty awful, really. Like he has pulled out of a few 60-40s in his favour. He has misplaced a few passes, and physically he doesn't seem up to the challenge in a game like today, because I think Aberdeen have been pretty decent, actually. I think they've made this a good game. I've really enjoyed watching that first half. The only thing that's been missing has been a Celtic goal, but it's been a good game. It's been a good first half, and Aberdeen have played their part because they've pressed us quite high up the field, and there's been a couple of times that they have targeted Bernabe. They've been on top of him quickly, maybe just one man, sometimes two, and it forces him into making a mistake. So they see him as a weak link there. But definitely going forward, he's been an improvement. And I think the team has looked pretty good as a whole going forward. We've created some chances. You could have the game out of sight by now, to be fair, with some of the chances we've had.
Yeah.
But also, I'll agree again with Chris on his point. I want to see us being more forceful and direct when we're going forward. The ball over the top has worked. We've got him behind a few times. But there's just been some times where we've kind of tried to be too intricate. If we just had somebody in that midfield who would just drive on, take us beyond their defence, try to turn their back line and force an issue, I think we could have, been sitting here discussing a 2-0 lead perhaps, because we have been really dominant. Confident we'll get a goal, at least one, in the second half, and hopefully that would be enough.
There's always that argument around, passing the ball to death. And Brendan Rodgers does that as part of his makeup. And we've seen it a lot this season. It can be very, very boring to watch, just constantly keeping possession. Two ways that you can break the lines, you can get Aberdeen on the back foot. And one of them is, can we even call it a long pass? That's almost like a bad word. As soon as I hear that, I just think long ball football, Dave Bassett, Wimbledon, all that. It was a searching ball from Nawrocki, and he's very, very good at it, as is Liam Scales. I mean, thinking back to when we're looking at the metrics, and Alan Morrison was talking about the fact that if you're a Celtic defender, you've got to be able to play short balls, which is maybe why Jens didn't last long at the club. He was very good at the searching ball into Jota. It worked really well. I think Nawrocki's good at it. It's not just a big toe up the park, Chris, And I think, actually, it was some of the only times Kyogo got into the game in that first half was the long searching pass. It puts Aberdeen on the back foot. Kyogo's got the pace, beats the offside trap, So I'm not against it.
No, I'm the same. I think, some of the best central defenders in the past, they've had more to their game than just your bread and butter defending. The guys who can actually build the play out from the back. And I think we're seeing elements of that today with both Rocky and Scales. I think I've been impressed with Scales in a couple of different ways today. I think he's excellent in the air, actually, not just in our box. But there was one occasion there where I thought he should have done a bit better with directing his header, but he was head and shoulders above the Aberdeen defenders. So his movement in the box and his ability in the air, I think if he could just get his accuracy right, it could be a real asset and actually maybe start to get some of those goals we've been desperate for from set pieces, corners and free kicks. But yeah, I think I'm liking some of the play coming out from the back. I kind of agree with the guys on Bernabe defensively. I thought there was one occasion where he was skinned by the Aberdeen player, but the ball just ran out of play. Also saw him, his first touch has let him down a couple of times and has actually allowed Aberdeen, or nearly allowed Aberdeen on the counter. So good link up going forward. I think he's done okay. At the back, still a wee bit shaky, but as has been said already, very well could be the case that he's being targeted for simply that reason. But yeah, the one thing I've liked about his going forward, and actually it relates to Kyogo. Kyogo actually came back, he came deep to win the ball, but rather than just kind of link the play, he actually picked up the ball and ran with it and went a bit more direct, taking on a few players. Now that was great because it allowed us to push forward, allowed Abada and Palma to come into play and O'Reilly and Bernardo to push up. The downside is that when Kyogo's doing that, there's no outball for him initially because he should be the furthest forward player. And again, it was just making me cry out for saying, see if he just had a strike partner up there. You just think of the opportunities it would create.
No, I know. And it's a simple thing. We've been crying out for it for a while. But there is this stubbornness, I think, to stick to a game plan, to stick to a shape. And, I just thought last week was a cracking example, or even Bucky Thistle, a great opportunity to try something a wee bit different with your shape. Attack. Exactly. They 2 games, actually, and then you come into the Aberdeen, Hibs, St Mirren away. And if it's worked, then you can come into these 3 games with a bit of confidence that actually we can build on this and there's a bit of momentum. It's all about opinions. Keep them coming in. Have you been impressed with that first half? I keep thinking back, Kevin McCluskey to the game at Pittodrie where it was the late show. It was James Forrest on to McGregor. McGregor scored a long-range effort. And a few of the other games this season at half-time against Livingston and Dundee where it was scoreless. But if you looked at the first half, it was all Celtic. You stick to the game plan, you win the game. I don't think it's going to be a swashbuckling performance in the second half, but I think we do have enough to grind them down. A few really good points coming in and a few that I disagree with, but that's what it's all about. Alan Robertson, Bernabe left wing back in a 3-5-2 certainly would have suited him more because I don't think his defensive qualities are there. And this one here, does Johnston, says Scott, actually think Kyogo's going to win the looping crosses? That type of cross is coming in from both sides, isn't it? I mean, we've had the break of the ball a few times, which has resulted in a shot over the bar and one clipping the bar, but they certainly don't suit Kyogo. I think Kyogo, when their defence is on the back foot, when, that sometimes it's the long searching balls or it's hitting the byline and cutting it back, Kyogo can find space, but to try and get him to win a ball in the air is asking a hell of a lot for Kyogo Furuhashi. I'm going to have to completely disagree with this. Buzzlop Scales experiment needs to end. It's not an experiment. He's been our best defender this season, Ian Conroy. I don't see it as an experiment. Liam Scales is in that team on merit, defensively, offensively. He carries the ball well. He does that Ayer thing where he can go for a run for 20, 30 yards. And that, again, puts the opposition on the back foot. He's very good at that. Long searching passes, he's winning headers. I don't see what the complaint is with Liam Scales.
I think I said this a while ago when he started doing well. For me, it was like if we forget he was called Liam Scales and he was this red-headed Adonis, fantastic footballer, and we'd signed him from in England for 10 million, we'd always say what a great piece of business. In my view, that's how good he's been. He's been Mr. Consistent. Our best player a lot of weeks, but he's just a really good player. He's commanding. The one gripe I had, the main gripe I had sort of early on was the fact that he seemed to be making mistakes, and a lot of his good challenges were recovery from his own mistakes. But he seems to have cut that out. He's maturing every game he's playing, and even though he's not playing with Carter Vickers, I think Carter Vickers was good for him. Sort of talked him through some games. Without Carter Vickers, he's the kind of the experienced one. I tell you what, watching the game today, though, I didn't have really. It was the first time really where it got me. That kind of not leg buckling, but it really was a stark reminder of how much we miss Jota and how much we miss Starfelt. Again, mid-20s guys, bit more experienced, bit more sort of less green. I just really thought we missed them a lot, today. I think games like this.
Yeah, and when you're losing a player of quality and then bringing someone in you need to work with, it's like you were saying, Palma does look as though he's got a lot of qualities in, but we need to work on them. I did think that he went outside a lot more often than he has been. His favoured manoeuvre is to come inside and try. I've seen him going outside a hell of a lot more today. He's obviously being worked on. Right, the Liam Scales thing, he breaks into the side, Chris, when we have spent over £7 million on centre-halves. We then bring in an EPL defender who obviously was an emergency. But Liam Scales is in there, as I say, on merit. Nawrocki's only playing because Carter Vickers is injured. Lagerbielke's not even on the bench. Phillips has been sent back to Liverpool. Why are we still on the back of Liam Scales? He's in there because he's played well.
I think he's still a victim of the perception from when he first joined the club, and came in as a left back and couldn't quite make the grade, and we obviously farmed him out to Aberdeen for a year, and I just think he's
farmed him out.
Yeah, I just think he's a victim of that kind of unfashionable perception. I think he summed it up perfectly. I think if you change him to Italian, you change his appearance, make him look a wee bit more the Maldini type, I think people would be praising him, unreservedly. I think for me, I agree, he's on there in merit. I think, look, yeah, he's had the occasional wobble. Show me a central defender that hasn't. But he has been the steady, secure, sort of 7.5 out of 10 every game player all season. I can't think of when he's had a dreadful game. I think there's a couple of games he's actually been possibly the best performer. And to be honest, out of all the available central defenders, he'd be number one on my list.
Yeah, definitely. Lawrence Connolly, the big man, will point out that he played somebody onside once when we had this conversation a few months ago. No, I think in terms of the performance overall, we stick to our guns, no big changes. We wait till 60 to 65 minutes before we make those changes. That's what I would expect. Let us go back to the action for only for us to be told that we've made a couple of changes at half time. Kevin McCluskey, Ian Conroy, and Chris McElwain will be back at full time. Let's hope we're talking about a victory. Well over 1,000 on a half time bulletin live. Thank you all for joining us, and join us at full time for a Celtic State of Mind.